Well, I am very pleased to meet fantastic performer Lily Grace via Zoom, but meeting you nonetheless. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very pleased to see you because I've so enjoyed your two singles thus far, which I'll get to talk to because you have only released two singles, but you're a very established performer already, which I'll also get to. But I wanted to start by asking you actually, when did you start singing? Because you have a developed voice, you are 16 years of age, but that voice is right there.
Oh, thank you. I kicked off when I was 10 and I started out busking at these markets and I picked up guitar and the local markets were on every Sunday morning. So I'd go down there with my guitar, no amplifier, and I sat and I busked there for about an hour or two. And my goal was to perform in cafes. So I busked and busked, saved up all my money to buy an amplifier and then worked my way up to cafe gigs, bars, pubs, etc., etc. And then I started going down the original route about 3 years ago now and writing my own songs. Over quarantine, I kind of fell in love with that all and writing a song every day, trying to, get my craft going and stuff. And so now I've been, performing original shows, which are my favorite thing to do because people are so attentive. They listen to the stories. It's the most rewarding thing. And I get home from school and I write a song. It's my favorite thing to do. So I love it.
Your work ethic to start busking and then to go to cafes and things, but I suppose it's also really good training because you have to try to capture people's attention. They're walking past, they don't necessarily want to stop. You have to really develop your stagecraft in a very immediate and raw way.
Totally. Like when I was little, I didn't know that many songs or anything, but I'd get there and I played off the cute factor a lot. I can't do that anymore, but I'd just like smile at all the people and I'd be like, hi, and they'd stop and stuff. And now I think that's helped me a lot now as well, though, because, look around, smile at everyone, pay attention to them. And that definitely, helps connect with the audience.
So that drive to, well, it might be a drive to perform, or maybe it's just a drive to sing. Have you always had that feeling that you wanted to do that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't come from a musical family or anything, so it's not really like that, but I just love doing it when I'm on them. I always say my two favorite things to do are write music and perform music. And I like writing because you can express yourself, be very honest with your feelings, and put it to a melody, which I think is a very special thing. And then performing, I love performing to attentive audiences when they listen to your story because you get to connect with them through that song. And I think that's a very special thing. And I love doing both of those things. And that's kind of why I do what I do.
So you said you were in this habit now of writing a song a day. When did you write your very first song?
I went to the academy when I was 12, I think, and I did a bit of songwriting there and stuff, but I didn't really fall into it then. I loved learning about it, but I wasn't really doing it on my own. Over COVID, I really kind of kicked into it, and my songs were terrible. They were really bad, but I kept grinding them out. And yeah, so now I've written about 300 songs. So I love doing it so much. It's so much fun.
That's extraordinary. 300 songs. But again, to go back to the work ethic, like I'm seeing a pattern here. Like you're prepared to go out and busk and play in all sorts of venues, knowing that it might be difficult to get an audience. And now you're writing songs, not necessarily to record those songs or even perform them, but actually to develop your skills.
Yeah, thank you. It's fun.
It
is.
So look, I have to say, I love so much part of the country music industry that is young performers going to the junior academy, because I just think it's an extraordinary thing. Obviously there are young musicians in all forms of music, but the fact that there's professional development and that there are children, because at 12 you're a child, willing to go and do this is really remarkable. So what prompted you to want to go to the junior academy at that age?
I had a couple of friends who had gone and they'd told me all these good stories about it. So I headed down. I'd been to Tamworth once before, and everyone was like, all the young ones talking about the academy, like, oh, are you going to the academy? Are you going? And I went, and it was like the most beautiful community of people, and they're all so nurturing and kind. And I still keep in touch with a lot of them, like Lynn Botel and Roger. They're all such good people, and you send them a track and I'll be like, oh, what do you think? And they come back with advice and tips and, everything. They're just so generous with their skills. I feel like the whole country music scene is like that as well, though. Like when I was in Tamworth, my first year, I went and just down to busk primarily because I had some family in Urella. So we were going down for that. And I said, Mum, let's go to the festival as well. She goes, okay, Lily, we can do that. So I busked on the street and surprisingly, I made it to the top 10 buskers to perform on main stage, which I did not expect. And I did not want to sing there either because there's 5,000 people on Toyota Park stage at 12. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. But my dad, he forced me to do it. I'm so glad he did because I would have regretted it to this day. But we couldn't find accommodation anywhere. So we went and we ended up staying at the Powerhouse, which is ridiculously, but next door was Troy Casadele. And he came, he knocked on the door and he was like, oh, you're sounding great, and he was so sweet. And I thought that was just a beautiful, example of how good the country music community are to young ones.
Yeah. Yes, and you mentioned Lynn Botel, and her name comes up over and over again for artists who've been at either the junior or the senior academy who stay in touch with her, and she's really supportive.
I love it.
But yeah, 5,000 people in an audience, that is huge. So how did you even know how to manage your nerves at that stage?
Oh my goodness, I was crazy nervous and I was like shaking and so scared. But I mean, it definitely did some good for me because I used to be very shy busking. And at the time, I was mainly only busking without an amplifier. So my main scare was like, big sound systems. I was like, what if I stuff up? They'll all hear it. But I'm really glad I did it though, because I got back and I was a lot more confident in myself performing. And I was like, if I can perform in front of 5,000 people, I can perform in front of the 20 at this pub. And it's helped me a lot since then.
Yeah, right. So have you done busking at Tamworth since then?
I did a little bit last year. I wasn't going to busk this year because I was pretty busy with gigs, but I've been twice now and I busked both those times.
Okay. So as we all know, the festival's been postponed, but it sounds like if you had gigs lined up for January, you're likely to have them in April.
Yeah, we're planning on heading down again, which I'm exciting. Fingers crossed for a bigger and better festival. It's such a shame it was cancelled,
But look, I'm hoping that the cooler weather means that everyone will just be even more excited to get out and about.
Absolutely. I was saying to mom and stuff, I was like, I know it's a bummer and it's not tradition, but it's so hot in January in Tamworth and you're just like sweltering from all the heat. So it'll be probably a lot more enjoyable heat wise.
Well, especially as a performer, because obviously you've got a guitar strapped to you. So that's an extra level of heat creation, I think. So what artists did you grow up listening to?
A lot of Taylor Swift. I love Taylor Swift music, but my mum kind of played all the acoustic kind of tracks, like the Boyce Avenue, the stripped back versions. We never ever had the produced pop versions of anything playing around the house. And she's actually from Tamworth, so I guess country music was meant to be. But I grew up listening to that and like the Ed Sheeran kind of vibes. And I started out, just playing guitar, writing songs, very stripped back and acoustic, which definitely fits very well into country.
Yeah, absolutely. So have you found that your tastes have changed as you've grown up?
A little bit. I'm kind of getting a little bit more into rock, just what I listen to, but not really my writing style at all. I guess not as much acoustic kind of stuff, more production, which I think is a very interesting world to explore.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would completely encourage you to go into that. You want to be a producer. Yeah. But also, I was just thinking while you were talking about what you said about so many of those songs you've written not being any good. Is it possible you're a very harsh critic of your own work?
Possibly, but my mom's like, oh, that's such a good song. And I'm like, I don't like it. But I mean, yes and no. I think there is, a line to cross. Some of them are genuinely absolutely terrible, but some I really want to, there's a couple of her songs I want to release now, which I really want to release, but I can't release 6 songs at once. So, just deciding which one and stuff. But
well, I suppose you could if you wanted to release an EP, but I also know that's not the way to do things at the moment. Like with streaming, I've spoken to artists who said, yes, you got to go single by single.
Yeah. I've heard that. I've heard leak a single, then put out an album. That's the way to do it. Everyone says that nowadays. It's funny.
And it's a lot to learn as well. It's, going to the junior academy. I'm sure you learn a bit about business, but really that side of it is changing a lot. And it's not as if there are too many people you can speak to about it, I would think.
No, not at all.
But speaking of people you could speak to, you have shared stages with Amber Lawrence and Catherine Britt, and also with Tanya Kernigan, which is wonderful. But I would also think as an element maybe for you as a younger artist, they're very established artists where you might think, oh my God, like they've been doing this for a while. Do you relish the opportunity of sharing that stage, or is it really nerve-wracking?
They are the most gorgeous, down-to-earth people you will meet, honestly. Like, Amber is very sweet, and you text her and she'll always, come back, give you advice, whatever you want. And so is Catherine. And Tanya, I met her and I was booked to play a show with her. And I met her, and within 5 minutes, she's like, Lily, didn't go film a live stream in my car. And I was like, yeah, 100%. So I'm like, here. I met her and we went into her car, and she sets up the phone and she's like, hi, we're here about to play the gig. And like 500 people jumped on, and I was like, whoa, okay, hello. And she was the sweetest person though, and she's so lovely. She's a Gold Coast girl too, so she's so sweet.
Yeah. So you mentioned you're on the Gold Coast in the Free State of Queensland, as I've been. Yes. So have you been able to play any shows in Queensland over the past few months?
Yeah, I've been very lucky actually. I haven't lost too many gigs, unlike a lot of other people, but I've had a couple of cancellations, obviously with Tamworth, in this last couple of weeks and stuff. Most of the gigs have been cancelled, but prior to that, I've been very fortunate. I've kind of kept gigging throughout the whole of COVID, which I'm very grateful for, because a lot of people didn't have that. So very, very fortunate for me.
And in talking about playing gigs, you also mentioned how you come in and write a song after school, because you are still at school. So does it feel a bit like you have two lives? Because what you're doing as a musician is a job. And it's a job with some fairly irregular hours. It's not, a conventional 9 to 5 on the weekend sort of thing.
It's a bit difficult, getting a bit difficult to manage. I'm year 11 this year, so stepping up a little bit. But especially when I'm releasing music and stuff with interviews and stuff, it's a bit challenging to squeeze that into the schedule because they want it at 10 a.m. or something. I'm like, oh, can't do that. I can do after 3 p.m. But it's, my friends are so supportive of my music and stuff. It's the sweetest thing. And they're always sharing, coming to my gigs. And even my teachers, which is beautiful. Like they, I sung at some of their weddings, and they come to and buy tickets to my shows. They're the loveliest people. So I don't think it's really separate lives as such, because I'm very involved in my music at school and my friends are and stuff. But it's definitely, very different responsibilities.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I guess you're starting to think about that professional side of well, you're not starting to, you have been thinking about the professional side of being a musician. So that is like, yes, your brain going off in that business development mode while being creative, and because it takes a lot of practice to be a musician. So doing all of that, hopefully your work as a musician means that you're able to study music for your final subjects at school. So you can at least pass over. Yeah, good. So talking about now the songs that you have released. So Annie June was the first single. It was released with James Blundell. It was written with James Blundell. How did that collaboration come about?
Yeah, so I was booked to play on a bill with Tanya Kernigan and James at this show, and something came up and Tanya couldn't do the show anymore. And I'd met James already, and he calls me up and he's like, hey, do you still want to do that gig? And, Tanya's pulled out. And I was like, yeah, sure thing, James. I'll play support. You open. He goes, no, co-headliners. And I was like, okay, if you insist. And I'm here like 15, like co-headlining with James Blundell. Okay, if you insist. But we were going to do a double set together to fill Tanya's slot. So an hour together. And we had got our cover songs in, some of my songs, some of James's songs. And I was like, oh, I feel like we're just lacking something. And he goes, oh, I don't know, what should we add? I'm like, what if we wrote a song together? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'd be down for that. So, we booked a date, sat down, a lazy Sunday afternoon. He was in his shed being a country boy. I was in my bedroom and just wrote this song. We pumped it out. It was a very quick write, just about an hour. And we finished this song. And it's called Annie June. It's about someone who's portrayed as a homewrecker. And they're introduced to a damaged household and are blamed for all this damage they supposedly caused, but it wasn't their fault. And the song did incredibly well. It reached as high as number 2 on CMT. We did a little mini tour around Queensland, and 2 of the shows sold out. It was amazing. This song has just done so much for me in my music career. I'm very grateful. Everyone's really supported it and shared it and loved it, which makes me so happy.
Well, I remember when I saw the press release about it, and I was like, that's a really rich backstory for a song, and not one. Look, let's be honest, because you were 15. It's like, that's not the sort of song I'd expect from a 15-year-old. But it was this great story, and it made the song so intriguing because all of that is in the song. You've just done it with the light touch that the song requires. Definitely. So how did you even come up with that idea?
Yeah. I was reading this book, and there was this lady who was introduced to, a damaged household, and her her partner had brought her into this situation, and the whole family was kind of dissing her, blaming her, and it definitely was not her fault. And you could see that from reading from the outside. So I was like, oh, that's such a cool concept. I brought it into James, and he was really down for it. He threw in heaps of ideas, and it was so quick, and it was a very fun song to write. So it was good.
So do you find inspiration for songs in books, in films, do you tend to just collect ideas as you're walking around or on the bus home from school or whatever it is and note them? Is that your
Totally. Absolutely. I don't know, some good songwriters always say, look out for everywhere, listen to conversations, to the radio, anything that kind of sparks anything, write it down. And a lot of them won't work out, but some of them do. This is an example of that. So
yeah, well, you had a strong concept. I think that's a strong vision for what the song could be, and that certainly can be heard in the song. Now, the next single was 16 Wishes, and that has had over 200,000 Spotify streams and over 85,000 individual monthly listeners. What is it like to know that you have an audience that size?
It is so cool. I was like looking at it the other day, and I'm like, oh, and the countries that has been streamed in, there's like 120 or something. Like, it's ridiculous. And there's like all these ones, I haven't even heard of some of them, and I was like, this is wild. Like, it's so cool. And I'm really excited for this next single as well, having those numbers up right now. It comes out in 9 days, so excited.
And the song is called Two of Us Meet. Now, I haven't heard it because it's not released, so can you tell us a bit about the song, the themes of the song, story of the song?
Yeah. So this song, it's called The Two of Us Meet. It's about having feelings for a guy who's new to town, and you don't know his story because he's new, and you kind of doubt him a lot because you don't know anything about him, but you have no reason to doubt him, and you don't have any trust in him. Oh my gosh, you don't have any trust in him at all. But then when you're with him, all those fears and doubts go away, and everything's better. And it's a really cute little love song we're releasing just in time for Valentine's Day. So I'm very excited for this one. It's going to be really cute.
And you're having a US release as well, from what I understand?
Yes. I'm very excited for the US release. We've been working on it for a very long time. So excited to press play on the button.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, you're doing music for your final subjects at school. What do you like at creative writing? Because I have a feeling you would be very good at it.
English is one of my favorite subjects. I'm doing literature this year. We got to choose, which is pretty much just creative writing. You do 4 pieces, and that's your main assessment, which is going to be amazing because you can literally rewrite my songs in story form and just submit that.
That's a great tactic, but I also think, just from talking to you, it seems like you're a born storyteller. So you're really alert to story ideas, and more than that, you know how to shape them for an audience, which is a skill. It's a talent and a skill, but it seems like your work ethic, again, to come back to that, means that you've become really effective at shaping those stories. So do you feel that in yourself, that you love story, that you look around for stories, that you love, obviously you read books and things like that?
Yeah. I reckon a big part of that is actually James. And if you listen to James speak, he is an incredible storyteller, and I've obviously been to a lot of his shows and worked very closely with him for a couple of months. And James is an amazing storyteller, and he performs, and he'll speak for 4 or 5 minutes before the song even starts. And everyone will be staring right at him, completely listening to every word he says, because he's so good at it. And it's very inspiring actually watching him perform and tell those stories, because everyone's very captivated by it, and he's very good at doing that. So I reckon he's definitely rubbed off on me in that kind of way.
So the one thing I haven't asked you about yet is actually being a guitarist, because you're a singer and a songwriter, but you also play guitar. So what age did you pick up the instrument?
I think I was 10, and I had this little baby guitar. It was so funny. And I kind of fell in love with it. I had a guitar teacher. My hands were tiny, so it was difficult, but I sat in my room and I just learned like Ed Sheeran songs, Taylor Swift songs every day. It was the funniest thing. And I'd be like, Mom, look what I'm doing. And I look back at videos on my like iPad right now, and I was so bad, but I loved it. It was hilarious. And I just learned cover after cover after cover, and kind of built my skill up in that way. And yeah, I'm really glad I did, though, because now I can write my own music and perform, independently, which I think is a very special thing.
Well, and it is wonderful to be portable that way. So it means you can go and busk, because if you played a bigger instrument like a piano, it is a lot harder to take that onto the street. Well, Lily, it has been so lovely talking to you and really inspiring. I find your commitment to what you're doing, as I said, really inspiring and wonderful to hear about. So I hope that your next single, the new single, does really well when it's released on February the 11th, on Valentine's Day, did you say? Or
February 11th in time for Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day, that's what it is. So good luck with that. Good luck in Tamworth and for the rest of the year.
Thank you so much for having me, Sophie.
It's a great pleasure.